Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for tonight's Kittitas County Chamber of Commerce Candidates Forum for the candidates running for County Commissioner District 1. We have Corey Wright, incumbent, and challenger Kristen Ashley this evening. Thanks for joining us. Here's sort of the ground rules for tonight's forum. We're going to start with opening statements. It'll be 2 minutes per candidate. And then followed by, then we'll go through a series of questions. The candidates have not seen the questions. They'll have 2 minutes to answer the questions. We'll alternate who answers first each question. And then if a candidate wants to have a rebuttal, we'll allow a 30-second rebuttal. Just raise your hand so I can see that we're gonna call on you after the other person's done talking. And then 2-minute closing statements. We've got about 30 minutes scheduled for this portion of our forum. This will be followed by the candidates for the Public Utility District Commissioner vacancy. And then after they're done, we'll have the 2 candidates running for County Commissioner District 2. So the candidates are ready, we'll get started. We decided before we went live that Miss Ashley would begin with her opening statement. So Miss Ashley, the floor is yours.
Thank you for your time and consideration. Thank you to the Kittitas County Chamber of Commerce for educating and helping educate the voters. And this is my home. I have traveled the world and there's no place on earth I would rather be, and no place that I would rather raise my future family. I was raised here, and I believe that every person in our community works hard to be the very best version of themselves that they can be and do their jobs to the best of their abilities. As I have reached out to organizations, individuals, interest groups, county departments, I've found that a vast majority of instances, I was right. Almost every neighbor, from the high visibility leadership of our irrigation management, which is an example to the nation, to the woman I met at the Safeway Deli who is excited to help me choose the perfect cheese, are completely dedicated to their neighbors and being the best version of themselves that they possibly can be. We are all neighbors. I will work diligently to unite us as a community for common goals and values that we have as neighbors. You can ask any person that I've served with in the Army, studied with, or worked with, and they can tell you that as County Commissioner, not only will I step up to the plate, I will work diligently, seeking out opportunities for improvements throughout our community. If you have more questions for me, I volunteer at the Republican headquarters every Tuesday from 1 to 3 in the afternoon, and I will be at the farmers market on Saturdays. I will listen. I ask for you to vote, and I ask for you to vote for me, Kristen Ashley, for Kittitas County Commissioner District 1. Thank you very much for your time. I know that wasn't quite 2 minutes.
No, that was perfect. Thank you so much. Commissioner Wright, your opening statement, please.
Thank you. And thank you to the Kittitas County Chamber of Commerce for this opportunity to discuss the issues most pressing to Kittitas County. Most importantly, thank you to those viewing this forum for taking the time to learn about the candidate on your ballot this year. In a time of sound bites and memes, your commitment to diligently educating yourself on the decision before you shows a government of, by, and for the people is still very much alive and functioning. 2 years ago, I was appointed as your District 1 Commissioner. Last year, the voters overwhelmingly chose to have me fulfill this term. This year, I am asking for your vote again to allow me to continue my work through a full 4 years. I am extremely proud of what has been achieved, but much remains to be accomplished. I look forward to completing what I originally set out to do. As this year started, no one could have known what kind of changes lay in store for us. COVID-19 has become the primary focus of governments across this nation, and Kittitas County is facing the same challenges. Through initial response and now on to mitigation and recovery, your county government will need to be at the top of its game to help us navigate the road back to normalcy. My experience, not only as your commissioner, but also through 20 years of managing crisis situations in private business, choice to keep our county moving forward. For generations, Kittitas County has answered the call when times were toughest. This period is one of those. My family is proud to have called this area home now for 7 generations, and I am honored to serve our citizens just as my grandfathers and grandmothers did. Although this time may seem difficult, our forebears have seen similar circumstances and come back stronger than ever. I'm confident we will do the same. It has been an honor to serve as your county commissioner, and I look forward to fulfilling the task set before me by the voters in 2019. I ask for your support again to re-elect me as your county commissioner on November 3rd. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, we are going to move into the questions now. And in the spirit of altering back and forth, Commissioner Wright, you'll get the first question. The question is, what do you think is the most important thing county residents should consider when they're electing a county commissioner?
Well, this is a difficult time. Many issues are fighting for our highest priority between COVID, growth, various land use decisions, as well as how we get our schools and businesses back open. I've spent the last 20 years in private business, working not only in critical safety areas, but also how to improve companies from the bottom up through quality management. And this is a time, I think, when experience matters. And my past performance proved itself through various companies. And now I'm proud that I have this opportunity to do the same for Kittitas County. So as we move forward, I would ask the voters to continue to look at what's been done and look at how experience is going to bring the results and future growth we need to ensure that we can continue to move forward.
Thank you. Ms. Ashley, the same question. What do you think is the most important thing that voters should consider for county commissioner?
I love that question. That's excellent. So I think that voters need to consider what your values are. What do you want to see, and what do you want to see for the future? Can you reach out to your county commissioners? Can you get a response back? Can you get educated on what your county commissioners do? I've interacted with so many people that don't even know what a county commissioner's job is. And I think that that's very important. How do you hold your elected officials accountable if you don't know what their job entails? And so I think it's figuring out what your values are, figuring out what you want the future of your own community to look like, and then seeing who aligns with your values better. Research your candidates. Look into what they stand for and what they're going to do, and then hold them accountable to do those things. Communicate with them. See if they listen to you. See if they listen to the different issues that you have, and then make sure that they are willing to not only lead and take a direction and take steps forward, but also make sure that they are willing to adapt their course if they get new information, that they can have adaptive management skills. I think that all of those things are really important when you're communicating with someone, that they can collaborate with people, that they can work as a team with not only the other departments in the county, but with all of the community members, so that even if you disagree with their decision, at least you feel informed and like your voice was heard. Thank you.
Can I ask just a point of order really quick? Is it 1 minute answers or 2 minute answers?
They're 2 minute answers.
Two, okay. I was under the gun for a minute. Thank you. Appreciate that.
All right, question number 2, Miss Ashley, you'll go first this time. There is the very real possibility that Kittitas County will find itself in a budget shortfall. If that were to happen, what would you prefer to do, cuts or increase revenue, or how would you manage through that situation?
I believe that we need to look at all options and all opportunities that we could possibly have in this community. We need to reach out to all of the successful business people that we do have within our community, people that have moved here from Seattle and were CEOs of corporations. We need to have communication with them about like what it would look like to incorporate additional industry in this time, especially since it's so challenging. I do think that we need to increase higher wage paying jobs in this community, in this area. Right now, it's difficult for our own residents to compete in housing and for property when it's on sale. And we need to see going forward where we can make cuts. I know that our county is fiscally responsible and that we have a track record of being that way. And we've been tightening our belts for a long time. And so we need to support our county departments in their striving to make those cuts and be more efficient, but we also need to make sure that we are looking at all opportunities. I know that we invested in a group that's looking for different kinds of funding and different kinds of grants for all of the different departments in our county, and we can be very clever about that. We can look at any kinds of grants for ADA accessibility for our buildings in order to help update them when they are getting run down. We can look at different kinds of environmental or those kinds of grants where we can be investing in our infrastructure, and then we can also use the different funding that's provided by the state and the government right now for supporting our residents. I think that we can, if we communicate effectively and we talk across the board, we can actually come up with really great solutions for our future. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Same question, Commissioner Wright. Need me to repeat it?
Please.
There's a very real possibility that the county could find itself in a budget deficit situation. If that were to happen, would you prefer to do cuts or seek revenue, or what would be your method of managing the deficit?
Right now, our budget figures through September are frankly looking positive. We have a conservative mindset at Kittitas County when it comes to budgeting. That doesn't mean that we are out of the woods by any means. The state has yet to meet for their legislative biennium, and anything is up for grabs at that point. So we need to be looking ahead. Right now, we have put a moratorium on capital project funding for next year, just to make sure that we will be ready should bad news fall. But looking at the two, cuts versus revenue gains, well, first off, revenue for government comes in the form of taxes. And in the business world, you want to get more revenue, you go out and sell more product. We don't have that luxury here. We need to keep an eye on what our local taxes are costing our families trying to put their kids through school, trying to put food on the table. So that means that we need to be very clear, if we are going to raise taxes in any way, that the electorate understands just exactly what they're going to be receiving for that. So that's really, in my mind, more of a last option. I would certainly love to see more businesses coming here. We have spent the last 2 years changing the structure and adding investment into Bowers Field. The business park is certainly going to have a lot of potential moving forward. Now it's time to market that. And this is where the Chamber of Commerce comes in as our marketing arm, as our associate development organization. We are looking for some serious business recruitment efforts to go on. And we have to partner with those who are most able to do it, which is the Chamber. And let's get those companies in here that want a site here. Folks are trying to get out of Western Washington. This is a time of a lot of opportunity. We need to capitalize on that. So it's a combination of investment now and keeping taxes low.
Okay, thanks. Next question is back at you there, Commissioner Wright. How do you feel that the county has responded to the COVID-19 pandemic? And is there anything in retrospect that should have been done differently?
I think overall, the county's done a pretty good job of responding to it. Our public health department acted early. The numbers stayed low throughout the summer. It was only 2 isolated incidents really within Twin City Foods, which frankly was a SWAT team response. I thought there were folks lined up outside getting information, testing, all kinds of response happening. And I really applaud the public health department for acting on that. Of course, we did have some deaths in our long-term care facilities, and that was highly unfortunate. And looking back, if there was something that we could have done differently, that's certainly something for the health department to examine. They've worked with those facilities to ensure that we hopefully won't see it, but it's a virus. This is frankly something that we're not going to contain. We have to live with it. So I think overall we did a good job of acting early, trying to keep our citizens informed. However, if there was an improvement opportunity, that's it. Keeping our citizens informed, and that is why the Board of County Commissioners has voted to or authorized a job listing for a public relations officer for the county. We recognize that communications in a time of social media and alternative media sources that haven't been used in the past, as opposed to simply newspapers and TV and radio, really put us at a bit of a disadvantage when it comes to getting the message out around COVID-19 and all the secondary effects of it with businesses and schools. So that's the biggest improvement opportunity, and we've moved to fill that hole. We want to get someone in there who's not only going to be able to put good messages together, but also advises on how to get that message out.
Yeah, thank you. Same question to you, Miss Ashley. COVID-19 response from the county, and in retrospect, things have been handled differently?
Well, hindsight is 2020, and I'm not going to be critical of anybody or how they responded. I think that everybody did the very best job that they possibly could, considering the circumstances. That being said, we do need to come up with a plan going forward. I do think that going from here on out, it would be nice to have a mental health specialist on the medical health board, just so that we are making sure that that we can ensure our community's mental health as well as their physical health. I think that that is a consideration that maybe should be taken if we are incorporating any plans for the future. We do need to learn how are we going to take appropriate precautions to live with this? How are we going to have appropriate conversations with the governor in order for our county to be managed the way that our county needs to be managed? We are very unique here. We are very specific. Our needs are going to be different than other counties around the state. And we need to identify that. We need to see what actually fits our county the best that it possibly can. We need to make sure that all of our community members feel safe and that we protect our vulnerable populations. We need to have those discussions. I would like to hear from a representative from every industry of companies throughout our county and hear how this has affected them. How can we best serve each industry? How can we best make sure that they are taking the appropriate precautions to keep people safe? Nobody wants to lose their customers, especially if they're going to lose them for the ever. And so I believe that all of us want to be safe. All of us want to make sure that we can progress forward, but we need to make sure that we can still keep people in their jobs and keep their small businesses that they've put their blood and sweat and tears into, while also keeping our vulnerable population safe and able to live the highest quality life possible. And so I would love to just talk to these people, have a plan, make sure that mental health is incorporated, and then make sure that we all have something to look forward to go forward to. Thank you.
Thank you. Your answer there actually is a nice segue into the next question, which is, do you support the 0.1% sales tax to support mental health? If so, how would that money be spent? And if not, why not? Ms. Ashley, you're first.
Yes. So yes, 100%. I support the 0.1% mental health sales tax. It's a tax that is not going to be, it's a sales tax. So unless you're spending the money, you're not going to have to be spending the money. And it's $10 on every, or it's 10 cents on every $100 that you spend. And it would supremely benefit our community. I've talked to emergency medical services. I have talked to the police departments. I have talked to mental health specialists throughout our community. And all of them have said that our community members would be better family members. Strengthening families creates an outward ripple effect that's only positive for our entire county, state, nation. And then it prevents recidivism. And then the money would be spent, I think it's, I haven't exactly memorized the slides yet, but it's 35%, I believe, would be going to our jails and our correctional facilities to prevent people from re-entering that system, being more productive members of society, warm handoffs to actually save lives. Within 14 days of being released from jail is when people tend to overdose on drugs because they have been off of drugs or their substance for quite a while, and then they go back and they use the same amount that they had before they were incarcerated. So there's that 14-day period where if we invest in a warm handoff, we could actually save lives and give these people the opportunity to get off of the substances that they're addicted to. Also, 30%, I believe, would go to our mental health for youth. My percentages may be off. I do know that we would be investing in that. 1 in 4 10th graders currently in our community have suicide plans. That is not okay. We need to make sure that we interrupt that and that we make sure that these kids have the longest life they possibly can and prevent them from ending theirs. And also it would go into preventing the stigma of mental health pursuit for help. And then Also, it would go into a little bit of marketing. Shoot, I didn't memorize it that well. I apologize.
That's okay. Commissioner Wright, what's your take on it?
Well, first of all, I really applaud Ms. Ashley for knowing those statistics, and she's exactly right. The figures are staggering. The impacts on this community can't be tallied in terms of the effects on our families, but they also affect us economically from a productivity in the workplace standpoint, as well as direct costs to your local government on responding to these issues. Given those facts, do I support it? I do. Will I pass it without a vote of the people? No, I won't. After a lot of reflection on this, I believe the people ultimately have the responsibility to determine whether or not they believe this is a big enough problem to warrant government spending. It is very little, honestly, of any transaction, 0.01%, 10 cents on $100, a buck on $1,000, and I would say that over and over. This is a small price, but with any tax, that means it's an investment, and your investors need to know where that money is being spent. So for me to support this, even going to a vote of the people, I would need to have a sunset clause on this, similar to our law and justice tax, which was overwhelmingly passed by our voters. And I would also want to have a advisory committee made up of local citizens, not the groups receiving the funding. Our local citizens need to understand where this money is working. And yes, schools, our jail, and also, in fact, let's talk really quick just about public safety. For a transport to a facility on the west side, you're talking an incredible amount of folks necessary to do that. That's a drain on the amount of deputies and officers able to respond on the street. That needs to be fixed. But I still believe that this needs to go to a vote of the people with the measures in place before it moves forward.
Okay, thank you. All right, Commissioner Wright, this is kind of an open-ended question. What would you like to do to improve affordable housing in Kittitas County?
We have a very low amount of inventory right now, and unfortunately, I think it's only going to dwindle. We have a lot of opportunities before us with the amount of growth coming, but we need to act quickly. First off, we are doing a project around predictive mapping, so folks can understand just exactly, as these growth patterns continue, what our county could look like in the next 5, 10, 20 years. And if that's something that, a place we want to continue going. There's a lot of platted lots in our county. They just can't be served because of requirements around sewage. So you can't have a septic system right next to a well system on a small lot in a rural area, even though it is platted. We should be looking at how to use local improvement districts to fund infrastructure to serve these lots. They are there, they exist. Let's figure out a way to increase our inventory. Right now, we are looking at with our minimum lot size, it's really not a lot of land that's buildable. We're 78% publicly owned. And when you look at the terrain challenges, we really only have about 11 to 12% of our county that would be buildable land for residences. So it's important to maximize that, but not lose what makes us special, our rural character. I think that we can start to get creative around the use of geez, I just blanked on it. Planned unit developments, thank you. But in small ways, rural clusters, where we account for the impacts ahead of time, retaining that open space around through creative use. A lot of folks want to live here. They want to live in the country. They don't want to live in the city. They move here for the open space, but they don't want to take care of that minimum 5 acres. Because honestly, it's a half acre of lawn and 4.5 acres of weeds a lot of times. So let's give folks what they want to buy, but figure out a way to retain that open space around them and not lose what we have now.
Okay. Thank you very much. Ms. Ashley, what do you think the county should do about affordable housing?
Well, I would like to work with the different cities and Habitat for Humanity and Hope Source and see where we can find available land. I know that land is the biggest, as Corey was mentioning, challenge that we have when we're developing affordable housing. But we can be clever and we can work with Habitat for Humanity. If Habitat for Humanity finds a place and they partner with one of our cities and they're able to get a house in there, that's affordable housing for 99 years potentially, because they usually have community development agreements or conservation agreements. I may have gotten the words wrong, but it would be really nice to be able to work with them and Hope Source. I know that Hope Source has been researching things. They've been looking into our community. They are building lots around our community, and they're doing amazing things. They have 50 houses going in on Cora, I believe, and they've been really developing that. I think that Habitat for Humanity is just a little bit closer to my heart, just because I recently volunteered with them, and I know that if our community got on board and started helping building our neighbors' houses, that it would just be this beautiful way of our entire county to participate in that. Yes, land is going to be an issue. We also need to look at resources. Water resources are a very delicate issue here, and we need to determine where that water would come from, who would be regulating that. I would like to talk to the KRD more about that and what that would look like. And I think that that also is being and needs to be considered for future development and where we put things. As Corey was mentioning, the infrastructure is huge. Not only the sewage and the water, but also like, how's the electricity getting there? How are people getting there? Where's transportation? Are we still investing in our downtown? Are we making sure that our businesses have a place to grow and that people are able to keep their homes for the duration of their lives? Thank you.
Thank you very much. So back to you, Miss Ashley. Do you support the Yakima Basin Integrated Plan? Why or why not? And what would you say to folks who are concerned about the impacts to Lake Kittitas?
I need to research the impacts to Lake Kittitas more, but that being said, I 100% have only heard glowing reviews and amazing things about the Yakima Basin Integrated Plan. This is the first time that stakeholders with all different values and all different backgrounds and all different desires for uses of the water have worked together and been able to establish a way where we are able to even better adhere to the treaty that we made with the Yakima Nation. We are reinvigorating the Yakima River with salmon, and it's happening, from what I've heard talking to Urban Eberhardt at KRD, it's happening at a really incredible rate. We are doing amazing things where people are having to trust each other, and they do trust each other, and they're having to communicate across all sides and across all boundaries in order to reinvigorate our streams and tributaries and our rivers. And I think it's a beautiful thing. I think that if there is a negative impact to Lake Kittitas, that we definitely should address it. We can come up with a creative solution though. The stakeholders that are on board with the Yakima Basin Integrated Plan are everywhere, like I said, from the Yakima Nation to our farmers and ranchers in the $8.4 billion agriculture industry that we have here. They are the environmentalists. They are people that are in trout restoration in the Teanaway area. And there are so many people that are part of this project that it would be impossible not to come down with some type of solution that we can all agree upon in order to restore any types of damages that we could make. And I think that that is where we should move in many other departments and many other avenues as well. Thank you very much for your time.
Commissioner Wright, your question, what's your position on the Yakima Basin Integrated Plan? And what would you say to folks concerned about Lake Kittitas?
Well, first off, I'm going to take a short stage break and turn the lights on in here because it looks like I'm telling ghost stories. I'll be right back. Okay. So sorry about that. The integrated plan. I am extremely proud of it. I am the county's lead on this initiative. I was there in Senator Cantwell, Senator Murray's, Representative Newhouse's office, and Representative Schreier has a framed thank you from me on her wall for her work in co-sponsoring the initial funding for the integrated plan through the John Dingell Act last year. It's huge. We have salmon in salmonless sacks, something we haven't seen in 100 years. We have water for our farmers for the future. We have recreational areas in the Tianway Community Forest, and we are finding projects that have synergies building around them, such as the acquisition of the Flying M Ranch south of town, which not only is going to build floodplain for the future, but also accomplish aquifer recharge, as well as provide a space for Twin City Foods to spread their clean effluent from corn production, which is used to water a hay crop down there. And as a result, they've brought back jobs here. This is a big deal, and it's going to set the stage for the next 100 years. As far as Lake Cochise goes, it's of course a concern for the landowners up there. This is something that has been examined by the folks at the integrated plan at the executive level. We recognize that there could be impacts to groundwater wells. There could also be impacts to firefighting and or firefighting supply of water. The integrated plan is absolutely committed to mitigating those impacts. And the recent decision from the process to examine these impacts showed that we are on the right track. So this is a big deal, and I'm proud to represent the county in this effort.
Okay, thank you. Well, it looks like we're just about out of time for this segment, but I did promise you both closing statements. These will be 90 seconds as opposed to 2 minutes. Commissioner Wright, you first, please.
Thank you. I want to again thank the Kittitas County Chamber of Commerce for this opportunity to discuss the priority issues facing our county. I also want to thank those of you taking the time to view this forum to better educate yourself on the choices before you. This has been an election year unlike any other. Your direct access to candidates has been limited, yet current events make this election one of the most pivotal in recent memory. 2020 will, in all likelihood, not have a 5-star review in future history books. Managing COVID response, keeping businesses and schools open, and ensuring financial stability for our county budget, all mission critical issues on their own, have competed for top billing amidst a lineup of other county needs that require close attention. Now is the time for experienced guidance that is only built by having lived through making tough business decisions that affect the bottom line. I've managed response in times like this in the private sector and now the public as well. I am confident we will weather this storm. I've ended all forums this year with a simple message, and I will do it again tonight. Please work to continue keeping our community unified. This will be remembered as an incredibly difficult year, but it can also be looked back on as our finest hour. Kittitas County is our home, and we count every one of us, whether we agree politically or not, as neighbors. Thank you for watching. I ask you to again cast your vote to elect me as your county commissioner on November 3rd. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Ashley, your closing statement, please.
Thank you. Thank you again to the Kittitas County Chamber of Commerce, and thank you for every person that I've met along this experience, and all of the community members and all of my neighbors throughout the entire county for doing your part during this time and really facing the challenges that we have the way that you have, and keeping together and being willing to talk to each other and being willing to disagree civilly. This is my home, and I'm qualified and energized to serve you in this role. I was raised in this valley. I plan on, like I said, raising my family in this valley, and then I plan on living here for the rest of my life. I'm very invested in making sure that we are positioned in a place where we can have the most success for generations to come. I believe in representing every person in Kittitas County, even if whether you are part of my party or not, elected officials need to be able to serve all of the people that they are in that role to be representing. And I will listen to every person's voice. If you reach out to me, I will respond. I will work for every stakeholder that is here in order to make sure that we have all the opportunities that we can for locals to be voices in how our public lands are managed. As Corey mentioned, it's about 80% of our lands are public. We should make sure locals have a voice. And I ask for you to vote this November and just make sure that you get your voice heard. And then I ask you for you to vote for me, Kristen Ashley, as Kittitas County Commissioner, District 1. Have an amazing evening.
Thank you very much. This would be normally the time I would ask our live audience to give a round of applause to our two amazing candidates tonight. So I'll just say on their behalf, thank you so much for your willingness to serve the citizens of Kittitas County. At this time, we're going to shift gears and move on to our candidates who are running for Commissioner for the Public Utility District of Kittitas County, Catlin and Pat Kelleher. And we did not pre-decide who's going to go first for your opening statements tonight, guys. Any volunteers? The other person will get the closing statement. If not,
I'll go first.
All right, Mr. Kelleher. The rules are the same as before. 2-minute opening statement, 2 minutes for the questions, 30 seconds for rebuttals if necessary. Please, sir, your opening statement.
Thank you. Pat Kelleher, and I'm running for PUD Commissioner Position 1. This month, when you open your electrical bill, whether it's from Puget Sound Energy, the City of Ellensburg, or Kittitas PUD, you'll be paying over $100 per 1,000 kilowatts of electricity. That's some of the highest rates in the state. Next month, you could pay a lot less, as little as $34 for the same amount of electricity. But you would need to uproot your family and move to Chelan County. My wife, Peggy, and I were born in Kittitas County, went to school in Kittitas County, raised our family in Kittitas County, and will continue to live in Kittitas County. But I know how to pay less for electricity in Kittitas County. Own a dam on the Columbia. Rock Island Dam is up for competition in 2023. We can compete, and I want your vote. So when you get your ballot, open it up, turn it over, go to the last name on the ballot and mark it and vote for Kelleher to pay less for electricity for the next 50 years. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Catlin, your opening statement.
Thank you and hello. My name is Rick Catlin and I'm running for PUD Commissioner District number 1. I've been an electrician since 1983, and in 1984 I started with my wife Tara an electrical contracting business. We operated that business with several full-time employees until 2016 when I sold it to my sons. I continue to work part-time because I love what I do. Kittitas County PUD is a vital part of the growth and success of Kittitas County, and I'm running for District 1 Commissioner to help continue that success. I feel that I'm in a unique position to do that because as an electrical contractor, I've worked with all 3 utility companies in the valley on behalf of farmers, ranchers, homeowners, and business owners. I have seen both the strong points and things that I think can be improved on working as a contractor for from PUD. I would like to see PUD return to a more customer-oriented utility. I would work on finding a way for PUD to use their own linemen, service techs, instead of contracting out these positions to outside contractors for everyday jobs. I think that would give PUD a better control of employee-related expenses and scheduling. I would like to work towards giving customers a better understanding of the cost and process associated with doing new projects with PUD. Returning PUD to the premier utility in the county is my goal. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So our first question will go to Mr. Catlin first. If elected, what would be your top priority to accomplish in your first term?
First term, I would like to see where right now we have outside contractors doing the service and lineman work. And in my business, I've been customer service is top priority. And I think if we put the contractors if they're employed by the PUD, I would think it would do a better job, be more customer oriented. And I think that we could keep the budget and cost down. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Kelleher, what would be your top priority for accomplishing in the first term?
Thank you, Steve. I think to address that question completely is, what is the role of a PUD commissioner? You want to provide safe, reliable, and affordable service to all the customers. And how do you do that? Well, one of the things, the number one priority that a commissioner does is he sets rates for the product. So that's the rate setting process is something that a PUD commissioner's got to do. Second is you got to approve the budget going forward. So where is the PUD going to put their money? And invest in line, capital, personnel. And then third, the PUD commissioner approves resolutions that set policy for the district. So my number one priority is to fill the role as a PUD commissioner. My number one goal for the community is to compete for Rock Island Dam in 2023. This gives us a once in a lifetime 50-year opportunity to get the cheap power that is generated in the mid-Columbia. Grant has two dams. Chelan has 3. Douglas has 1, and they all have some of the cheapest rates. Chelan has the cheapest rates in the nation. And they only use 20% of it locally. 80% they sell it on the market and use the profits to reduce their rates. We need to go compete for that dam and so we can pay less for electricity in Kittitas County and generate the economic benefits that a few more dollars in your pocket will provide. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we're on to the second question now. Mr. Kelleher, you'll answer first. What do you think is the single biggest challenge that the Kittitas PUD currently faces? And also, what do you see as its greatest opportunity? I think you've said it already, but go ahead.
Thank you, Steve. Well, the greatest opportunity that we have ahead of us is a 50-year opportunity. There's an organization back east called FERC. Not many people know about it, but they occupy the field in selecting dams and whether they're permitted. They control everything that happens within the project boundary that goes along with the dam. So this 50-year opportunity is really unique. We can compete with Chelan for this dam. The criteria for the winner is whose program, whose application is best adapted for the public interest. Well, I know that selling 80% of your power on the open market and hogging all the profits is not in the public interest. The rivers in Washington belong to the people of Washington. I want to return the benefits of our river to the people of Washington and have some of those benefits flow back to Kittitas County so we can also prosper through the use of the dams. Basically, Chelan has just hogged the market. And we're not going to condemn Rock Island like Chelan did against Puget Sound Energy. We're going to compete fairly for the dam in front of FERC. And there's a little rule at FERC. If you win, you pay net investment. What is net investment? Net investment is buying your parents' house for what they paid for it, plus the porch they put on it. So it's a great deal. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Catlin, the question is, what do you think is the single greatest challenge that Kittitas PUD faces? And also, what's its greatest opportunity?
The Kittitas PUD, I think the single greatest challenge is upkeep for adding more customers, upgrades on substations, line extensions, tree trimming. It used to be, and it can be, a premier utility in the valley. It just we need a little more customer service, work with the customer more. They actually own the company, so we work for them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Catlin, this question's coming back to you. One of the things that this whole pandemic has really shown a spotlight on is the inequities when it comes to rural broadband. And there's been some PUDs around the state, around the country that have decided to take that on. Is that something you'd be interested in seeing Kittitas PUD get involved with?
Thank you. I don't think it would feasibly work for us. We're a small PUD. We cover an awful lot of country in the Kittitas County. The infrastructure would be astronomical, and with the satellites and antennas and stuff, I just don't think that would be a feasible option for this PUD to do.
Okay, thanks. Mr. Kelleher, what's your thoughts on rural broadband and Kittitas PUD?
Thank you, Steve. I'd like to go backwards a little in how PUDs got into broadband, the 9 that are, or there's 16 that are providing the service right now. And what happened was the BPA on their towers had a static line, and they found out that they could string fiber in place of that static line to do the control functions that they needed. And they didn't want to string a little tiny thread, so they strung a fiber cable and offered this dark fiber to PUDs. And they didn't really offer it to PUDs. The legislature in 2001 changed the law that allowed PUDs to provide wholesale telecommunications. Okay, a lot of people jumped into it. The Grant, Douglas, Chelan, they had plenty of money laying around. They jumped into it big. Other PUDs joined an organization called NOAANet. There's currently 9 members of it. And they've all played around with how to provide this service. If you want to get a good, frequently answered questions, Callum PUD on their website provides a good overview. Jefferson County is extending broadband. They're using it because a PUD can also assess property taxes. They're assessing property taxes to extend their broadband. I don't think that would be of interest to the people of Kittitas PUD. Manson PUD is using fiber neighborhoods. They're getting 75% participation, and then allowing the customer to pay the $3,600 connection fee, $25 at a time over 12 years. But I haven't seen a PUD that really has a fiscally neutral broadband program. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Kelleher, next question has to do with some state legislation that happened in 2019 that requires that all retail electricity be greenhouse gas neutral by 2030. So my question is, what will you do as a PUD commissioner to make sure Kittitas PUD is in compliance?
Thank you, Steve. Kittitas PUD is in pretty good shape. We are a 100% preference customer of the BPA. So it's going to be on the BPA to make sure that the electrical product mix, which they call it, meets those state standards. Nuclear power meets the standard. Hydro meets the standard. If you can mitigate for your gas turbines, you can meet the standards. In my plan, I want to go after Rock Island Dam because I see an opportunity for Kittitas County, not to get the benefits of a dam like that. Chelan took $24 million to the bottom line last year, just off of Rock Island. So that would improve our situation, but I want to use the power and send it to K through 12 education to displace that coal power that is generating the lights in elementary schools today. So in support of that initiative, that is the proposal we're going to put in front of FERC to compare to Chelan's proposal of we're going to sell 80% on the market and use the money in Chelan County. So there's a great opportunity for us, if we are successful in competing for Rock Island Dam, to use that power to move us along as a state, as a community, K through 12 education, to a greenhouse neutral electrical sources. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Catlin, what's your take on what we need to do by 2030 to become greenhouse gas neutral?
Well, as Pat said, Kittitas County PUD is in pretty good shape on that. We still need to work on the Clean Energy Transformation Act, which is zero by 2045. But we were 99% hydro and plus, and maybe a little nuclear, but both of those are close to or will meet the 2030 deadline. So just keep abreast of it, keep informed on it. And we're fairly lucky being a hydropower here. So thank you.
Thank you. And this is, I guess, kind of a follow-up question. Just in general, are you a supporter of increasing our portfolio of things like solar and wind power? And if so, is there challenges that need to be faced in terms of balancing the budget and keeping rates low?
Any time that we can use alternate power to save power, we can add customers if we use less power. The net metering will help every household on the solar or wind side of it. I'm more pro solar than wind, but even though the wind does blow in the valley, but anything you can do, energy efficient appliances, insulation, windows, all that will help conserve energy, which is a good goal. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kelleher, what's your view on renewable energies such as solar and wind? And is there anything that needs to be done to balance the budget within the PUD, keeping rates low for customers?
Thank you, Steve. I think there's exciting opportunities, and they've already, pretty aggressively been pursued with rooftop solar into our power system. I would really like us to expand and explore conservation and be the expert on offering programs to businesses to not only conserve electricity, but to save businesses money. I know I worked with the city when I managed the Chevron to go to the LED lighting. We cut our bill in half and we were lit up like a Christmas tree. So there's some really win-wins in the conservation area. As to going out and developing a wind farm like we have out there at Vantage, or a large solar thing, every time we've participated in those, we have such a minute participation in it. Basically, it's just another meeting to go to. And we got out of the Packwood hydro dam program because that, I mean, so I don't see us doing anything large scale, but on the individual homeowner scale, that's exciting. On the conservation is exciting. And the more we can do, the better off we'll be. Thank you.
Thank you. So shifting gears here, what is your position on providing assistance to financially needy customers, and to what extent, and then how do you balance that in terms with your budget priorities and keeping the rates low? Mr. Kelleher, you get to go first this time.
Thank you, Steve. You know, obviously the COVID situation has put more strain on the system. The utilities are under restrictions by the state as to how they collect money for their services. I want to see us reach out and work, because they're our neighbors. Everybody's our neighbors. We're the owners. The owners of everybody in Kittitas County is an owner of Kittitas PUD. I want them to hold me responsible to treat our customers as our neighbors, which they are. There's a lot of programs available. There's a exciting tax credit system that we're not currently using that could help out to about $10,000 a year. There's some rate structure things you can do that will also be state mandated, low income, elderly, in your rate structure. But you also want to keep in mind that since we're not a profit organization, everything we do is paid for by the customer. So there's a balance there. It's going to, I think we're in pretty good shape. And I look forward to meeting that challenge. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Catlin, you need to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
What is your position on providing assistance to needy customers, and to what extent, and then how do you balance that with the budget and desire to keep rates low for customers?
Well, with the COVID going on right now, we cannot make customers pay. I think there's some outfits out there, Hope Source, and will help, and a few others that would help them. I'm a big believer in, if the customers come to us, say they have a problem, want to work it out, I believe we could work it out with them. They're using electricity, so they do owe the money, but I think PUD would work with them if they work with us on it. What was the second part of that question?
Basically, just to what extent do you do it? I think you kind of answered that, but how does that balance in the costs of helping the customers out versus the budget?
Yeah, we need to help them. I think if they come to us and we can work out something, I think, and I'm not there, so I can't say we will, but in my business, if a customer has problems paying, we work with them. and I think PUD would do the same thing. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, well, we're at the top of the hour. We did start a few minutes late, but we're going to jump to the closing statements now. I think I promised Mr. Kelleher to go first since Mr. Catlin did opening statement first. 90 seconds for this instead of the 2 minutes you've been accustomed to. So go ahead.
Well, thanks, Steve, but I think you have that backwards. But I would like to use my close to address a letter, Tuesday's letter to the editor by PUD Commissioner Paul Rogers. Since 2001, I've participated in the competition for Wanapum and Priest Rapids Dam. In 2001, Grant PUD offered Kittitas PUD a new 50-year power contract. We'd been getting power from them for the past 50 years, but their offer was 30% less. Paul Rogers signed that contract, raising the electrical costs for every PUD customer. In 2001, the Yakima Nation decided to compete for Wanapum and Rock Island Dam, or Wanapum and Priest Rapids Dam. In 2007, Grant PUD offered the Yakima Nation a new 50-year power contract, and it was huge. It was enough to power Kittitas PUD. So in dam competition, the Yakima Nation showed up, came to the plate, competed, waited for their pitch, and then they crushed it out of the ballpark. Where was Paul Rogers during this competition? He came to the plate, took 3 called strikes, lost 30%, and sat on the bench. Paul Rogers wants Kittitas County to ride the bench for another 50 years. I want to compete for Rock Island Dam.
Thank you very much. All right, Mr. Catlin, your closing statement, please.
Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity to meet and share my ideas. Being a lifelong resident of Kittitas County, I want what's best for our valley, and my experience as an electrician and business owner, and also a PUD customer, I really do feel I'd be an asset to the Board of Commissioners. I look forward to putting my expertise to work for Kittitas County PUD Commissioner of District 1. Thank you.
Thank you guys very much. We really appreciate your interest in serving all the citizens here in Kittitas County and for joining us this evening to speak to the voters. So thank you guys. We are now going to shift gears to the final segment of tonight's forum, which is for the candidates running for Kittitas County Commissioner District 2, Laura O'Shaughnessy and Jerry Martin. Do we have both our candidates?
I am here.
Commissioner O'Shaughnessy? Hi. Okay, we didn't decide before we started who's going to go first with opening statements. We got any volunteers for that?
I'm ready.
All right, Mr. Martin, 2 minutes for your opening statement, please.
I would like to thank the Chamber for hosting this forum for our citizens to be better informed. Over the past 8 months as a candidate, I have met with many of you and listened to your concerns. Your views have changed my focus. When we launched this campaign, my concern was about lost opportunities from past actions, about misdirections on our present board. Little can be done about the past. We need to be more focused on current decisions and their effect on our future. Our focus must be on what we can control and make sure decisions are made with a purpose and toward a vision for the future. So, what can a commissioner do? We can control the county budget by looking at ways to make government better, not bigger, and in turn, not taking more than needed in your taxes. We can control how transparent, accessible, and accountable we are to you. As a commissioner, I will make every effort possible to modernize our county's communication platform. I will also open an office in the Upper County with more localized county services. This will require an immediate investment in broadband access countywide. Finally, We will have a town hall meetings where we can discuss and determine what our future will look like. We are a rural community, but an ag community should look different than a mountainous tourist-driven community. My focus will be on planning within our community in lieu of centralized planning by committees. For the past 15 years, decision-making has been tainted by influence from those outside of our community. We need to make sure that moving forward, we define our vision and move forward together. If elected, my focus will be on serving you and working diligently towards moving our county in a positive direction. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner, your opening statement, please.
Yes, good evening. I'd like to start off by thanking the Chamber of Commerce for hosting this event. My name is Laura O'Shaughnessy, and I am running for re-election to retain my seat as Kittitas County Commissioner for District Number 2. I'm a 7th generation Washingtonian with my heritage stemming from the farmlands of Eastern Washington to the evergreen forests of the Snoqualmie Valley. As a leader, I have a deep appreciation for the people and history that make Kittitas County so unique. I am working diligently to ensure we have the resources to provide for a more diverse economy, responsibly manage our public lands, find ways to attain affordable housing for our citizens, as well as tackle current and pending traffic challenges. Some examples of the work I've accomplished over the last 4 years include closing leads on water rights to expand our green and yellow zones, ensuring landowners to affordably build on their land, breaking down barriers to allow for a small diameter mill to be established, providing leadership at the local, state, and federal level. I am currently the chair of several county committees, as well as the legislative steering committee member for Kittitas County on the Washington State Association of Counties. I am asking for your vote in this election so together we can build a better future for our next generation while respecting and preserving our rich past. To learn more about my priorities, achievements, and the campaign, I ask you to please visit my website at www.retainlaura.com. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we're going to alternate each question who answers first. So we're going to start with Commissioner O'Shaughnessy. What do you think is the most important thing that voters should consider when they're voting for county commissioner?
Thank you for that question. So some of the things that I think is incredibly important is to take a look at the track record of the person that you are voting for. Does this person put the community above themselves? And does this person have the ability to collaborate with diverse groups of people, enabling our county to pass legislation that benefits community members? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Martins, what do you think is the most important thing voters should consider when voting for county commissioner?
I would say the background and experience that he or she has, and what that background and experiences look like. For 40 plus years, I've been self-employed. And in that period of time, we've faced all kinds of different conditions. We've gone through recessions, we've gone through wars, we've gone through 9/11. All of these things have had impacts on not only our local governments, but on our local community. So during that period of time and being self-employed, you had to find ways to move forward. You had to react and make certain that decisions made were decisions that pushed us forward, or you paid the consequences of having the negative impacts of your actions and things. So at this point, and especially with something like COVID-19, nobody anticipated this. So as you move in through a challenge like that, you've got to have somebody that understands how change takes place and how to work through that with different people. You've got to have the resources in your background to adjust as needed and make decisions that will not cost our citizens into the future.
Okay, thank you. So Mr. Martins, this question goes to you. What could you do to help improve the county's preparedness for a crisis and our emergency management plan?
First and foremost is sitting down and making certain that you've got a package in place that is flexible enough to look at those kind of conditions. COVID-19 is a perfect example. One of the things that you got to make certain of is that you address how long a crisis is supposed to last. In this particular case, we had a response in place that was meant to address fires, floods, what would be relatively related to a short-term issue that we would have to react to. Nobody anticipated an emergency that would last 8 months and more. So at this point, we've got to look at and see and put in place a package where at time frames, a fire might last 2 months, it might last 2 weeks. So there's transitional periods where the emergency management starts transitioning into more of a long-term position that includes elected officials so that they can be held accountable by those that they put them in place. When you get into our current situation where we have bureaucrats dictating our livelihoods, it does not play well for those of us that have actually got to exist in the private sector. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner O'Shaughnessy, what could you do to help improve the county's preparedness for a crisis and emergency planning?
Yes, thank you for that question. So first of all, I'd like to say there's always room to improve. No matter how well you think you have things ironed out or how prepared you are, there's always room for improvement, and the Kittitas County is no different. I would like to start off by just stating that not too long ago, just over a year ago, Kittitas County hosted a FEMA training, which was for all municipalities to participate in. Myself, as well as other commissioners, were a part of it, mayors, law enforcement officers, to continue to train and prepare for emergencies within our county. Throughout the last 4 years, we've had several emergencies in our community, and time after time, Kittitas County has been praised for our ability to be responsive, as well as how well we work together across boundaries, whether it's with the U.S. Forest Service, DNR, our cities, as well as law enforcement, both in our sheriff's office and in municipalities as well. Some of the things that, as far as building for the future and how do we become better prepared in emergencies such as what we have seen with COVID-19, I think what we have found is that there are ways to go about things differently, whether it's how the incident management team is set up and who's a part of that. That's something that we've learned over time. We've made changes as we go, and that's something that I really pride ourselves as county government is we have the ability to acknowledge where changes are needed to happen, and we make those changes when those can be done. I've also worked extremely hard with our state legislators to get ready to put together legislation in this next legislative session to address how powers can be distributed more at the local level. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, our next question for Commissioner O'Shaughnessy. Do you support the passage of the 0.1% sales tax for mental health? If not, why not? And if so, how do you think that money should be spent?
Yes, thank you for that question. So mental health is something that is incredibly important to me. I do support this sales tax, both professionally and privately. However, I do not support this tax being passed through the commissioner's office in a legislative type of approval. I do believe that this, as well as all taxes, needs to go to a vote of the people. And I look forward to have additional conversations with people who are deeply involved with this topic here in our community, and look forward to be able to hold hearings here in the next future to see how the commissioners wish to move forward on this. However, I will be moving forward in support of, but through a vote of the people.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Martins?
First and foremost, I support mental health. Anything that we could put in place, I believe, is a necessary investment in both our public and private lives. It spans all income levels, races, everything. So yes, I do support mental health. If the people want this, I think there's means that we can turn around and make this happen. But to turn around and put a dedicated tax towards this is something I really question and I cannot support. Our budget over the past 4 years has been increased by 26%. That's $25 million over the past 4 years. We have a airport with 1,200 acres that is sitting out there pretty much vacant. We've got to find ways to do a better job with what we've got and not go to the people constantly asking them for means to support another program when we have the means within our own control to take advantage of and plan for. So mental health needs to be a priority, but I think it should be done within the tax structure that's already in place.
Okay, thank you very much.
30-second rebuttal, if I could.
Yeah.
I just would like to state for the record that as far as the budget goes, it is within the Washington State Constitution that property tax can only be increased by 1% per year. The reason why our budget has increased, as Mr. Martins has stated, is due to Kittitas County's incredible success with receiving grants from our state and federal partners. And I'm certainly very proud of the grant writers within our county enabling us to get that additional funding for our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I respond to that?
Sure.
That may be fine and dandy, but the bottom line is we have increased fees on all of our citizens substantially. We are looking at now charging $100 just to get an address. We have found ways to tax our people, to fee our people that is unprecedented, and it's all happened in the recent past.
Okay. All right. We need to move on to our next question here. Where to you, Mr. Martins? Your commissioner district is home to quite a bit of woodlands, including the Tanaway Community Forest and the Roslyn Urban Forest. What's your position on the community forest model?
It's a necessary thing to have. I question when we start designating these areas and taking them out of the available resources that are supposedly in place for the people. While it goes into recreational stuff, it goes into watershed planning, it goes into many good programs that I can support. I also have to go back to the fact that Kittitas County, while it's a big county, doesn't have a whole lot of ground to turn around and use for development, for supporting itself. Out of the, I think we heard earlier, Mr. Wright talking about 80% of the county being under private ownership. That doesn't include the things that are like the Cascade Land Conservancy and some of the other conservancies. They go out of the rest of it. So we're down to about 11% where we can take advantage of. And when you start turning around and taking additional lands from that 11%, it's going to have an impact to all of us. We're going to have to support that land through our tax burden. So there's got to be a balance. And right now, I don't see that balance there.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Oshadas, what's your position on the community forest model?
So I am a supporter of the community forest model. However, a community forest is not successful unless the community supports it. So right now, this community forest model is reaching out to people across the county from various interest groups and citizens to make sure this is set up in a way that the people of Kittitas County would like to see it set up. As far as funding goes, one of the unique things about the community forest that has been discussed for some of the lands that are currently owned through the Nature Conservancy is a model where a portion of those lands, or actually roughly a third of those lands, would be designated as a tree farm, and the income from the logging of that property would go into the management of the additional lands. So there's a lot of different creative new ways that Kittitas County and others has been looking at as far as being financially being able to support some of these things without additional burdens on our taxpayers, but also to protect some of the lands that historically the people of Kittitas County, such as the ridge above Roslyn and Clallam and Ronald, have used to recreate for generations. So our community is really excited about this. I have been a part of those conversations, and I look forward to continue those conversations and see where it leads us into the future.
Okay, thank you. Another natural resources related question. Commissioner Oshadas, do you support the Yakima Basin integrated plan, and why or why not?
So yes, so the Yakima Basin integrated plan I do support, and the Board of County Commissioners is on record of supporting this plan. The reason I support this plan is it was really built through a process of community members throughout the Yakima Basin that historically didn't get along. There is irrigation companies, there's the Yakima Nation, there are farmers, there are various stakeholders throughout the project that came together to see where the give and the take can come to ensure that communities across the basin have what they need to help their community. You know, we had mentioned the Teanaway Community Forest in the last question. That was part of the Yakima Basin Integrated Plan, was the protection of that watershed. And so we now have that community forest here in Kittitas County. There are definitely some very controversial issues as well, including Lake Chief. And I'm very aware of that and have had many conversations with our citizens in regards to that. We are continuing to work with all partners, and I look forward to continue those conversations and see the plan into fruition, but want to continue working with everyone who's involved. Thank you.
You, Mr. Martins, the Yakima Basin Integrated Plan.
You have to support it. It's been there and in place too long. There's nothing we're going to do to change the direction, and to do anything but support it is the wrong direction. My concern is all of the stakeholders that, you know, everybody talk about tends to leave out one subset of the people, and that's the ones that are affected by potable water. It's those like up at the Lake Kittitas watershed. These people they get engaged real late into the process. And that's the problem that the plan has had from its inception. They talk about all of the communities that have been served by this plan. And I agree, the tribes, senior water holders, municipal water systems, irrigation holders, all of these people have been at the table and have been closely, they've been involved with the discussion. But then you get down at the other end and you see those that actually have to rely on water in rural lands. You see homeowners that actually own, or landowners that are still in the red zone. You see all of these other things that the plan never quite addressed. So we've got a lot of work in front of us, and I think it's going to be, we've got to control what we have control of. So as a county commissioner, I would be bringing that forward and asking the hard questions within that. How are you going to meet the needs of this subset of our population? We seem to be the forgotten ones. And there's a substantial amount of people out there that are paying the price for being forgotten.
Okay, thanks.
Can I rebut really quickly?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd just like to state for the record, I have and continue to meet with the people that are affected in the Lake Kittitas area and those with wells. I have also brought to the table the Department of Ecology, Rosa Irrigation District, to have some of those very tough decisions. So those conversations are being had. But as was stated by both myself and Mr. Martins, there is still a lot of work to do.
I'd like to make a comment to that.
Okay.
One of the deficiencies right now is if you own a water share on one of your vacant lots, I just got my tax assessment because I fall into that category. I am being taxed, property taxed on my water certificate. I don't see senior water holders being taxed. I don't see leased water holders from the county bank being taxed. Why are we targeting that subset? Thank you.
All right, we got to move on, and I think we've got time for one more question before we go to closing statements here. What would you like this is for you, Mr. Martins, what would you like the county to do to support and grow the tourism industry here?
That's a heck of a question. And I think that part of my campaign has been trying to define what we are as a rural community. When I've asked that question of just about everybody, they come back in and they can't answer the question. They say they don't want to see us become Issaquah or King County. That's a poor way to actually turn around and answer that question. We need to, again, take control of what we can control. We've got to go out and address each one of our communities and ask that question of those communities. In a tourism-driven community, it can take many, many different forms. Snoqualmie Pass is going to be much different than Vantage. Their interest, what they're actually trying to, their vision for their future is going to be different. So we have to go to each one of those communities and starting the dialogue, having the town halls, whatever it takes to get out in front of them and ask, what's your vision? Where do you want to see this go? We're going to have to address traffic. We're going to have to address sewers. One of the answers to all of this stuff is probably going to a sub-area plan for each one of those communities, and then starting addressing the water, sewer, transportation, communication, all of those needs so that we can start using those communities as an economic driver to our overall economy.
Okay, thank you very much. Commissioner Oshadas, what would you like to see the county do to support and grow tourism here?
So, this is great. And what's very interesting is that I'll share really quickly is my degrees in tourism and recreational management. And years ago, while I was in school, one of my projects was to put together projects that would create additional tourism in the city of Roslyn. So it's been extremely interesting for me, more as a case study, to kind of watch this play out over the last 20 years. So as far as some of the work that we have done, a lot of this has been funded through the lodging tax. So what I'm hearing from cities is there's definitely the need to help control the amount of people coming into our communities. So assistance with parking, as well as garbage collection, those sorts of things continue to be challenges. Some of the areas that we've seen successes is with the county helping to fund some of our smaller communities with branding and websites, such as the city of Roslyn and the city of Kittitas over the last couple of years, to help complement some of the work that the city of Cle Elum and the city of Ellensburg, as well as Kittitas County, has done on their online marketing. One other thing that I wanted to touch on was just over a year ago, I established the use of micro grants through the lodging tax funds. And this is something that helps our rural communities as well as nonprofits and partners to help them receive funds in a smaller amount, so just up to $1,000, but to help get some of these important projects off the ground without having to go through the annual process.
Okay, thank you. So we're past the bottom of the hour. We're going to go to closing statements, and Commissioner O'Shaughnessy, 90 seconds, and unlike the 2 minutes you've been used to.
Okay, wonderful. So thank you once again for hosting this event. Kittitas County is at a crossroads. What we decide today is going to forever shape our future. It is not a coincidence that I have received endorsements from over 140 of our neighbors, friends, but also from elected officials here locally and across the state of Washington. I have proven to the people that I put the community above self and will work tirelessly to represent everyone in Kittitas County. Before you cast your vote this November, I ask you to think long and hard about these questions. What is the track record of the person you're voting for? Does this person put the community above self? And does this person have the ability to collaborate with people who have diverse views to get the job done? As Kittitas County Commissioner, I have a solid track record, put the people first, and collaborate well with others. That is why I am asking for your vote so that together we can build a better future for our next generation while respecting and preserving our rich past. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Martins, your closing statement, please.
Thank you, Steve. I'd like to thank the Chamber for putting this forum on. Ballots will be arriving within the next day or two, and it is your chance to decide if my opponent has provided sound leadership and deserves re-election. I would submit that she has not. While we are both Republicans, there is a stark difference between us. I am for better government, not bigger government. Our incumbent has voted to expand our county budget by over 26% in just 4 years. Our Board of County Commissioners is mired in with dysfunction that seems to stem from the fact that they simply don't like each other. Their dysfunction has impacted the quality of service provided by our county. We deserve better. I'm running because of our exploding budget, but also due to increasing growth, skyrocketing land values, and continued rural water access issues. More importantly, there is no plan or even discussions in place on how best to address these. Annually, we see increased code restrictions put in place for more control. This stems from a lack of leadership, vision, and direction from our commissioners. I am looking forward to open discussions about these issues and working towards our common vision. Please visit my website at jerrymartins.org or give me a call at 509-674-7271. My name is Jerry Martins. My name will be on your ballot, and I would ask for your vote on November 3rd.
All right. Well, thank you very much. That wraps up our evening of forums tonight. I want to give a big thanks to Commissioner Oshadas and Mr. Jerry Martins for joining us and giving us their views tonight. For the viewers out there watching, thanks for joining us. Please don't forget to vote on November 3rd and tune in tomorrow night, same time, to see our legislative reps, Representative Dent and Eduardo. Butchering his name.
He
Sorry.
is.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you.